You're listening to Fanboy Versus with your hosts, J.D. Church, Chris McFeely, and Chris Triplett.
And you are listening to Fanboy Versus. I am your host, J.D., joined by the amazing Chris Triplett and Chris McFeely. How's it going, gentlemen?
Not so bad.
Nice.
My arm hurts a bit.
Oh, sorry. So, this week, it is Fanboy versus Adversity, as we try to actually do a show. Little preface. We didn't end up doing a show for 2 weeks because of holidays and things like that. And we had an amazing show last week. It was our 2010 wrap-up show. We talked about...
Man, it was incredible. We had so many special guests, and they sang a song.
I'm telling you.
I can't believe that we had Jeff Johns on.
I know.
Fantastic.
Wasn't it great?
You know?
Yeah.
It was... we even had a musical number. It was amazing. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties related to JD trying to set up a new microphone, that show is mostly gone. Yeah, the first half is almost completely unlistenable as far as my audio, and the second half is entirely unlistenable as far as Triplett and McFeely. You can't hear them at all. So, someday, excerpts of that show may be released somewhere, but not here and not now. So we'll probably talk about some of the things that we talked about, because this week was super light as far as comics go. But we will talk about some of the comics and things this week. But, hey...
We have a lot of stuff from last week to talk about as well, because we didn't talk about last week's comics.
Yeah, we talked
about the year that was last year.
Yeah,
so
we hit like
basically why we're not going back to cover everything in detail again, because we've missed out enough comics as it is at this point.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone away. So, but anyway, it's going to be... This will be fun. So we'll rehash, like I said, we'll go over some of the stuff that we missed. But hey, we got to do some news, because there was some biggish and kind of a surprise bit of news this week. But of course, I always turn to Chris McFeely for that. So, what the heck?
Quesada out, Alonso in. Marvel appoints new editor-in-chief. Who the hell saw that coming? What the hell?
Yeah, I mean... What a left! I mean, it was
just sitting there eating our sandwiches or whatever it is that we geeks do of a day, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, this news just lands.
Yeah, I mean, there was no announcement of a press conference. I mean, they had all that fanfare for Fear itself, and then it was suddenly like on Twitter, Joe Quesada is like, oh yeah, by the way, hand it over to the keys. There you go. What? Crazy.
Definitely, yeah. He has been replaced as Quesada is stepping down from the editor-in-chief position, and he is going to the chief creative officer position, which may sound a little familiar to people, because that's what Jeff Johns became about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the person, as I understand it, that is like the person in charge of managing and overseeing the use of Marvel's characters in other media, films, cartoons, etc. And stepping into his editor-in-chief shoes is Axel Alonso. Now, I've heard it said, this is pure hearsay, so don't take this as gospel or anything, but I've heard it said that since Quesada became, creative officer, whatever, Axel has basically been doing the editor-in-chief job. And he has he's been an editor for actually over a decade, but because I imagine a lot of people are going, Axel who? And he has been a senior editor at Marvel for the last decade, where he's been working on the Spider-Man books, and he was helped create the Max line. And he worked on pretty big ones, he was a big editor over in the X family of books for a while as well. But don't have a world of other things to actually say about him.
Yeah, just good job.
Is I mean, is this a case where like Quesada may be promoted to a point where he can't do much more damage to the comics? Or
Is it a question or a statement?
I don't know. I mean, yes, I think.
I don't know. If he wants to, just kill off, I don't know, Invisible Woman or something, he can just do it. I think.
Well, I mean, I guess my hope is that maybe if he moves further up the chain, he won't have so much time to focus on what's going on in the comics, because they have their finger in a lot of different media right now as far as television, film, cartoons, things like that, and that's what he's supposed to be overseeing. At least that's my understanding of what this job description is.
Well, say whatever all else you will say about Quesada, but that has been an area that he has always done very well in. He is a good hype man. And under him, Marvel has basically hit cinema successfully.
Yeah.
Basically, almost solely under him. And, in the last couple of years, we've had Marvel's best cartoons ever come out, to finally challenge DC in that market. And still haven't quite mastered the art of the television series yet. But as far as cartoon and films go, those have done nothing but grow and grow. As far under Quesada, and I mean,
I don't know if like involved with it, but video games has actually gotten pretty good.
I think video games actually count too. Yeah, I think that counts.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be anything that's other media, or I mean, any media is my understanding. It's anything under the Marvel tag that's creative sense. He's supposed to be helming that up. As far as at least the grand overseer. But I mean, obviously, the individual control will be disseminated below that, but he's just overseeing it.
I'm not going to cry about him leaving the editor-in-chief position, but I'm not going to, effectively tar his whole run in that position with either, because he got Marvel out of a very bad point in time. He really, really reinvigorated a lot of books in a lot of areas of the company at a time when they were just clawing their way out of bankruptcy. Bob Harris? Or Tom Brever? No, Bob Harris. Bob
Harris, yeah.
Just been appointed DC's editor-in-chief recently. He got the ball rolling. I know it was Bill Jamis and Joe Quesada together that really did the big stuff, But then I think more and more as Quesada's been in charge, he's allowed his personal views of how things should be to come in and interfere with things like Spider-Man or what have you, or it's given us Civil War and things like that. And this one, I think it's time for him to go, but not going to say that he didn't do, like, on the whole, like, overall, he did good things. And, he definitely, like, under, Marvel's reprint and graphic novel department started to completely kick ass under him. And, while we may look at a lot of the big things that happened in the universe, like the state of the event, yes, a lot of bitching was done about the Avengers, but under Quesada, it was propelled to Marvel's premiere book. And a lot of bitching was done about Spider-Man, but since then, it's
awesome now.
Yeah,
exactly. And but those are the big things. And then like on the small front, we've had so many fantastic miniseries and books like She-Hulk or whatever, just as a for instance, like of B-lister characters who would not have got the chance a couple of years beforehand, and new things like Runaways and Young Avengers that have come in and really made their mark. It's been as much as like maybe the old hard part deep inside of us complains about things. It's been a good time under Quesada for the most part, and this is the thing about Alonso, is that I just really don't know what to expect from him at all. It's not like somebody's going, oh my god, they have promoted. I mean, when Quesada was promoted, Quesada had been doing the Marvel Edge thing, like not Marvel Edge, Marvel Knights. And
right.
we did his one on Daredevil with Kevin Smith, like real big, daring reboots of things that put characters like Daredevil back on the map. And, Punisher was another Marvel Knights book under Garth Ennis, things that really fixed these characters, put them back on the map. And so that, he had a lot of good credit off of the back of it. Was the idea of, like, building something back up, giving it a fresh start, and just making it work again. And what is, So, but you don't get that with Alonso. It's like he just doesn't seem to have a big enough name to be somebody who will be in that editor-in-chief position for any length of time. Or I mean, maybe he'll make it his own and make his name by being editor-in-chief, but it usually works the other way around, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, we make fun of Joe, but he can do more than just draw covers. So,
yeah. I hope it ain't got nothing to do with Spider-Man, though. Whatever he's doing.
Yeah, we probably just want to keep him away from that.
Yeah. So, well, that'll be interesting. I mean, like you said, I think it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Whether this is going to be in like an interim, without being called an interim editor-in-chief, or what's going to happen. So,
well, we'll see. It's just going to be really, really weird not seeing Joe Quesada's big cheeseburger munching head at the forefront of every Marvel press conference now.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss that.
Other news following a very distinct second, and the only other piece of news that we have this week is the one that we pretty much called when we reported it the first time out, was Warner Brothers shelves plans for Wonder Woman TV revival.
Oh, man.
Kelly's proposed Wonder Woman television series has been shelved. Sources say it was a matter of unfortunate timing.
Well, I mean, and I'm not shocked by this. I mean, well, for several reasons I'm not. In particular because they had announced the Raven series. Just, 2 weeks ago.
I'm predicting pretty much the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that essentially, though, they're not going to throw out, like, 3 series at the same time. And so I'd imagine that the Raven thing is going to be the replacement for what they're going to do with Wonder Woman, which would probably be far more palatable. Like I said, if they put it up against, like, Supernatural and some of the other shows that you see on CW, which is where I assume it would go. But Wonder Woman really wouldn't fit into that mix.
It's nothing against Wonder Woman. I feel she could take another crack at television safely, but...
I just want to see someone in an American bikini. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe it's time for Baywatch to return with an American bikini.
Are you kidding? We can't even get Superman in the tights on his own show, you know what I mean?
Oh, maybe at the end of this season.
Oh, yeah, did you see the teaser image?
No, there's a new one, isn't there? I read something about that.
Oh, yeah, that one with him in this reflected in the big metal S.
Yeah, there's the big metal S, and in the reflection at the bottom, you see him wearing the suit.
Oh, good.
But you don't see him wearing the suit, you just see, like, the bottom half of the suit or something.
Again, the only reason I care about the series is for the other characters. I'm still not big on...
I've said it before. I think I've said it before on the show, but I'm still calling it now. And if I'm wrong, I'll happily, I'll be very happy to see if I'm wrong. But final episode, Darkseid's going to possess that Lex Luthor clone, so we might get some Omega Beams out of it. There'll be no real Darkseid. He won't look like Darkseid. He's just going to be that possessed Lex Luthor clone. And he might look like Darkseid for about 3 seconds at the penultimate moment of a really unsatisfying fight sequence just before Clark beats him with one punch.
Oh, come on. That's every episode. That's too safe of a bet. You know?
Specifically, it's the Dark Force will possess the Lex Luthor clone and he won't look anything like Darkseid bet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting. I mean,
I'm willing to bet they're going to recycle the Doomsday special effects for Darkseid, and that will be the 1 second that we see.
Oh my god!
I could see Omega Beams happening. I could see big lancy Omega Beams shooting out.
And that's when he flies, because he has to fly away to avoid the Mega Beams.
Yeah, he's gonna fly.
Yeah.
From the
maybe.
beams.
I think so.
You might drag. No, he'll grab and he'll fly him into space, and his body will explode, and for a moment there will be the Dark Force there, and it will look like Darkseid, and then it will dissipate.
Okay, this isn't an HBO series. This is CW.
What is it, like Fantastic Four, where the second Fantastic Four movie, where it like sort of was shaped sort of like Galactus, in silhouette for half a second,
something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have too long to go to find out. Just somebody let me know whenever that Booster Gold and Blue Beetle episode is on.
Yes.
So we'll watch that.
We wants it. We needs it.
That's all we wants is, but I will watch it.
Yes. So, well, hey, I heard a rumor that comic books came out.
Not many, actually.
So I assume that our review
It's
mix.
a dead media show. It's all digital now, isn't it?
I know. Well, that was there was something else that was pretty big that was day and date this past week.
God, I wish I could summon up the energy to care.
But yeah, I know you're not really excited.
It might have been the death of Spider-Man, was it?
Is that gonna be? Yeah, that's gonna be day and date.
That's gonna be day and date. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really hit that piece of terminology as well. What does that even mean, day and date?
Well, I think it's a carryover from video media, because when back in like the VHS and video days, there was the lag time between when something would go on direct TV or not direct, but like direct viewing, like off a cable, and then when it was released from DVD. So typically, if something was released to video or DVD, there would be a lag time of a week or so. But then they used to say, I think the terminology came from there originally, because if it went up for like direct viewing same day, then they would say it's day and date, meaning that the day and date of release for that is the same as the DVD day and date.
You with all of your knowledge.
I used
They
to work
also
at a video
use it
store.
in video games, don't they? Like multiple console release video games. Say
Yeah, it may come from
PS3
that
and
too.
Xbox.
Yeah, if it was same, because there used to be, sometimes there would be lag between those as well.
Yeah, maybe like an exclusive on one system, like maybe for like a year or something, and then the
Right.
game would come out on the other system.
Right. I don't know that for sure. I mean, I have a vague memory of that. Like I said, I used to work at a video store years ago. So
Me too, by
Yep.
the way.
Blockbuster,
Hey,
man.
hey,
They used
speaking
to.
of working in a store, I wanna actually publicize this thing I found this week. Some people may know it already, but this is a website for you guys to visit. You put this in the show notes or something. It's ourvaluedcustomers.blogspot.com.
Is this like
it's a
LOL
series
cats
of-
or something?
No, this is a series of one-panel comics, just talking head illustration caricatures of the ridiculous things in real life said in a comic show.
Nice.
I know if any of you have ever wondered as to my pain, but, you know, if you thought I've exaggerated some scenarios, just read this guy's blog. He works in a comic shop and he makes cartoons of the stupid people things say.
They could almost do one just off of your Twitter feed.
I don't know. Some of the things that are on this website I have heard. Some of them are way beyond me, but some of these things I have heard. You know, there's one that just really made me laugh, which was a guy. You have any comics where Spider-Man just gets the shit kicked out of him? Like, fucking hit Spider-Man!
Every issue.
Yeah.
I've heard that. You know.
Wow.
So there is definite truth in these. So that's ourvaluedcustomers.blogspot.com. Check that out, folks.
Nice.
After the show.
After the show. Not during the show, because right now
No,
you're listening to the show and you
it's
want to
correct.
hear our exciting reviews of the comics that came out over the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Do we want to talk the comics from the last 2-3 weeks now, or do we want to just give everybody who missed it, which is everybody, a rundown of the 2010 from last week to start off?
Yeah, I guess we could give a quick rundown. I think we're going to have to be more abbreviated than
Just like
we
hit
were.
the titles. I mean, you know, we talked about our favorite books, you know, and obviously mine, I give the nod to Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
What
and that's
did you guys say?
I think that is what I said, wasn't it?
I don't
'Cause
remember.
that's the only thing I've read all of, I think, from all of last year. But I mean, that Fantastic Four run was pretty amazing. So I think I second you.
And Triplet, you talked about...
Yeah, and I third it, definitely.
And we also talked about Batman a little as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I give it the nod because this was the year that it all opened up before me. You know, I can't in good conscience give it because I didn't read it this year really properly and sit down, buy it, and read it. So that's why Fantastic Four takes it for me. And actually, even if I had it, I still would take it anyway.
Well, Batman's, you know, what was great about Batman is it was like the first time in a long time in which Batman was the first comic I read out of the pile. You know, Batman and Robin, it was like, if it came out, I was like, yeah, I got to read this. I gotta find out what batshit insanity's happening in this issue. You know.
I have a similar reaction, but it's the opposite for me. I always save my good comics for the end. I don't know why, but it's like if I have a series of comics, but so in a similar respect, I would always like save those for the end because it was like there was like my special little topper, you know.
Yeah, I like to save something good for the end, but for that book, it was always like if I only have like a second in the day to read a comic, that's the comic I'm gonna read. That's the
I try and divvy them up myself, you know, try and not go out on a sour note or anything. But you know, if there's something that's totally awesome, then I gotta read it. It's like I know I'll be reading Fantastic Four first at the end of this month.
Hell yes.
Yes.
I mean, if I'm just sitting there reading my comics, you never know who could break into my house, come running up to me and tell me which member of the Fantastic Four died. If only I had read that comic first, I would cry.
Yeah, you're really gonna have to like get that issue, turn off the internet, and just, you know, like go into information deprivation mode until you read it.
Because I'm not going to get reading that. I mean, I may have to. In the UK, now, books are going to be delivered to stores on Tuesday to go on sale on Wednesday. And I don't work Tuesdays, so
you have to go in, dude.
I'm gonna have to go into work on Tuesdays just to see that book, because I'm gonna have to be at work all through Wednesday before I get reading that comic. And there's a computer in front of me at work.
Yeah, and there's no way that's not going to be up.
Yeah.
So.
That is going to be.
You're going to have to go in.
I always forget, y'all are ahead of us, right? So technically y'all would.
Well, we will
it's going to be.
They'll be shipping to stores on Tuesdays. But I think I also heard that they'd be shipping to stores on Tuesdays in America as well.
Well, they will be, but I'm saying as far as, you know, when you all will get them versus when we get them. So wouldn't it be? It's a couple hours ahead, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could have British, you know, in the UK, you could have people, you know, standing outside the shop at 9 in the morning to buy the new comics on that day. So that is, you know, whatever, a maximum of 8 hours ahead of somebody in the, you know, a minimum of what, 5 hours before somebody in America could buy it off the shelf.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh man,
they don't have it plastered all over newspapers the way they did when Spider-Man Unmasked or Captain America died or Bruce Wayne announced Batman Incorporated, you know.
Yeah.
But they're putting it in a plastic baggie, so I can't believe Marvel is going to blow it across newspapers.
No, I don't think they will.
I'm really seriously concerned about this in a way that should be reserved for global warming or the socio-political context of the world.
There's important questions, you know, facing our world, and we're sitting here. And I was like, how can we keep from getting spoiled on who dies from the Fantastic Four? This is important, okay?
These are the topics of 2010. Secret Six, actually. That's another one we need to give the
Yes. Yeah. Cats in the Cradle. How can you not?
Seriously.
Oh, man.
I mean, I can't give it, like, I can't say it's absolutely the best book of 2010 because the Reptile Brain was a bit, but Cats in the Cradle was this year, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, you know.
Cats in the Cradle got you reading it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's what got me into Secret Six, and now I can't not read Secret Six. I mean, I've been poo-pooing Action Comics, and I bought it specifically.
Don't poo-poo Action Comics.
I'm just not that interested. But, you know what I mean? Oh, Lex Luthor, okay, great. But, you know, I bought this issue, and who knows, I may start reading Action now based on stuff from Secret Six. So, yeah, I mean... Awesome. It is kind of well, we'll talk about it, but it was kind of weird to read.
See, you shouldn't poo-poo Action Comics because Superman's not been in it in like 6 or 7 months or something.
It really
he's not even mentioned in it anymore. Lex Luthor doesn't even care about Superman.
It does have that going for it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I hate Superman. Speaking of Superman, big changes for him, ish. Not punching things anymore, but anyway, well, we events we had Blackest Night and End of Siege, which I think we all agreed that Siege was sort of crap.
Yeah.
Siege was written to serve a purpose, as I've said many times.
Siege gave us the Avengers back, my Avengers, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Killed off a character that should have been gone.
Yep.
A long time ago.
Who, Loki? No, Loki should still be around, which he is.
Loki.
Yeah, Loki came back. That's, you didn't need to get that.
Thankfully, Loki came back. I was talking about the
Still
Sentry. Sentry.
Still dead, and hopefully
Thank
for a
goodness.
good long time.
So,
Our favorite writers kind of mirrored our best issues, best series, really. I know I gave it. I voted for Jonathan Hickman, which is, in addition to Fantastic Four, he's also been serving up the Great Shield and the Secret Warriors, which was off the boil for the part earlier this year, but in the last couple of months has been kicking some mad ass. Nick Fury is a stone cold mother.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Thor has been enjoyable as well. This has been a real year of Hickman, because this guy just came storming in out of nowhere in the wake of like Civil War. He co-wrote Secret Warriors, which they attached Bendis's name to, purely to sell it. By Bendis's own admission, he was doing nothing with that book. He was just credited for the creation of the team, but they were attaching his name to it to sell it. And now he was doing that 2 years ago. It's now doing 3 other books at Marvel right now. And who's saying a bad word about him, frankly?
not us, that's for sure.
No.
Not this show. Definitely my writer of the year. But I mean, we also said Grant Morrison, and for me personally, I gave Grant Morrison the tip because this was just the year where the clouds parted and the ray of light came down, and suddenly I got it.
I mean, he made Final Crisis a little bit better. That's amazing. That right there gets an award for something.
Yeah, I mean, Final Crisis, I haven't changed my opinion of it yet, but when I suddenly, reading the final issue of Return of Bruce Wayne, and the final issue of his run on Batman and Robin, and suddenly just comprehending it, like, that fucking 17th turn of the Rubik's Cube, and suddenly everything made, well, not literally everything, but suddenly I just comprehended it on a level I just didn't before. It has prompted me to go back and get all of his stuff in trade paperback, so when I get back to Final Crisis, maybe it'll change my opinion of it. I doubt it, to be honest, but the fact that I'm going back and reading any of this at all really is a surprise to me, because I've never loved his work. I've never hated his work, except for Final Crisis. I never paid that much attention to his Batman. It registered with me, but I wasn't going out of my way to follow it. I picked the one piece of that cycle of stories that he was telling that I did spend money on and sit down and read in full. I never really would have thought that I would be going back and reading all of this stuff now. So, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I am the dog in this.
I think the big feat for me, and it kind of goes back to something we talked about as far as our favorite series, is that Grant Morrison got me liking the idea of Batman and Robin. Because I so thoroughly enjoyed that Batman and Robin series, that and the way that he was able to write Dick and Damian as far as their partnership and how they function together, that it got me reading that. I mean, that's on my pull list now and everything. So I think in that respect, I think I really like what Morrison did, and aside from all the Batman stuff. And I think, but another writer obviously that I had to put on there again was Gail Simone, because of her work on Secret Six, as well as Birds of Prey. I think I can appreciate that series is good to people who are invested in it. But it just, like, even though it didn't really pop for me, I guess.
Somebody that I didn't mention last time, but who I really want to, is actually Jeff Parker as well. He of Agents of Atlas, writing the Hulk series as well, and Fred Van Lent as well, Lent, whoever, who's been on Spider-Man and the Incredible Hercules, and just like all these guys from the same guys I would mention in the same breath as Dan Slott, who
is awesome.
Yes, people of the newer generation of of writers who have this vested love of history and who actually know their history versus people who just try to skirt around history. So your big guys like your Millers and your Bendis and whatever, who may pay only lip service to history or may use generalized versions of historical concepts. Guys like Parker Van Lent, Greg Pak, another one, and Dan Slott. These guys know how to use continuity and write fun stories. You know, Dallot was doing this at a time when fun was a dirty word. You know, he was doing, which was so very unlike anything else that was coming out at the time, but which is now much more comparable to the stuff that these writers are doing on Hercules, on Agents of Atlas, on...
Yeah,
on
when he was doing She-Hulk, wasn't everything just kind of like was it like Avengers Disassembled time when he did that? When everything everybody was dying and depressed, and the Avengers were in turmoil, and we didn't know
Avengers
what...
Disassembled happened a couple of issues after She-Hulk started.
Yeah.
So
it was a nice breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it was when the grimness was really settling in. We were really settling into that period of grimness that would hold sway until Siege and Age of Heroes, really. We didn't mention those guys last week, but I definitely want to give the nod to each of them as well.
And then as far as artists, I don't think we need...
But I don't even remember who I voted for.
Yeah, I don't either.
Oh, no, of course I friggin' remember. It's J.H. Williams.
Oh, yes.
And Stuart Amonin, who is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Not much more to say. Well, I'll repeat my spiel on J.H. Williams, whose name I got right this week. Yes.
He's not Freddie Williams.
No, he's not Freddie Williams. Freddie Williams drew something this week, though, but I forgot. Yeah, J.H. Williams, who's doing Detective Comics, who did Detective Comics when Batwoman was on it, doing the new Batwoman series now, is astounding. He is in an industry that is 70 years old, 80 years old nearly. He is still doing amazing new things that you wouldn't have just... You know, comics sort of are settled into their ways at the minute. And you would be forgiven for thinking that there isn't any really new innovative ways to tell a story sometimes, you know. And J.H. Williams just comes in there and kicks you in the balls. Because he's just doing things artistically that are incredible. Like, his comics look like no other comic you'll see. And, you know, if you haven't looked at any of that stuff, for God's sake, go and do that. I mean, I would say pick up the new Batwoman series, but since he's writing it, and I don't really know what he's like on a writing level, it's kind of more of an unknown. So what I would tell you to do is go and buy the Batwoman Elegy hardcover.
Now, wouldn't it be awesome if he got really good at writing and he also had his art? My God, he'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, everybody else could just quit.
Yeah.
So.
And Stuart Immonen as well, as Triplet says, definitely has been doing a great job over on New Avengers, and Marvel are really recognizing this guy's talent as well, because he's going to be drawing Fear itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
That happens later next year, because we mentioned that in the news last week, but we've lost that as well.
Yeah. Oh, one writer that we missed, of course, we have to mention is Jeff Johns, because I mean, you know, even
it's
Spike.
It's a given, but
yeah,
it's a given for a reason, you know.
Yeah, I mean, even Spike TV recognizes that Jeff Johns is.
You mean the Scream Awards?
Yes, the Scream Awards.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the Scream Awards are considered to be the authority for great comic.
Absolutely.
Opinion. Yeah. So anyway.
I mean, it must be, since it's on every cover of a book he writes.
Do you think he cringes? I wonder what his opinion of that is. I wonder if he cringes every time. Like, he picks up, you know, and looks at his issue of Flash, and there's that little tag at the bottom where it's like, oh, great. Scream Awards. I'm proud.
You would wonder. Limited series-wise, we talked about some of our favorite minis and things that have happened this year, and I gotta give it to Taskmaster.
Yes.
Which is the best superhero miniseries I have read this year. And that is the good Fred Van Lint on the writing as well. So it's the fact that I forgot to mention him as a writer last time, and then proceeded to pick that as my favorite miniseries.
Yeah, that series
that was a fantastic series.
Really good. I mean, I think it had those elements of what makes a good mini in some ways, in that it doesn't change anything that came before it, nor does it have to affect anything that comes after it. And yet, it adds a level of interest and complexity to a character that otherwise wouldn't get that treatment. And it plants the seeds that if a writer in the future does want to use that, they can. They can play on that element. But that it, so many times you get a mini or you see a mini and the instinct is to, I'm going to do something really amazing and something that's really going to alter and change this character. And I don't know if that's always the way to go on a mini. I mean, because I think you're sort of entrusted with a little bit of the essence of that character, but also keeping true to that history. And if you come in and really try to wipe the slate clean of everything that came before, I think you're doing a disservice to the development that went into that character, and you're also forgetting that, you got 4 issues, Those 4 issues shouldn't really alter the entire course of a character. It can, if that's what editorial wants to do, but I think if it's really good, it does like this did, which is, sort of leave the character where it started and yet take them on an amazing journey that you can, use later if you want. If not, you can set it to the side and you can move on with the character as they're known. It doesn't affect that.
But such a great balance of solid, real drama and very funny comedy as well.
Oh, yeah.
Without feeling like any kind of really drastic tonal shift.
No.
Right,
and that is so hard to do a lot of times, especially in comics, because it tends to be one or the other. It tends to be either really funny or it tends to be really dramatic. And it's hard to strike that balance where you have those moments. I mean, just to be able to juxtapose that red shirt character and have the organization called MILF, and then not a few pages later, you have the whole ordeal. The end of the story with Mercedes and having to take everything back where it was, and her still, taking care of him and everything. Just, that's hard to do and hard to do well in the way that you can really laugh at that one element, and then a few pages later, little dirt in the eye,
Yep, that was probably the best superhero miniseries of. Not probably. We're sitting here saying it was the best superhero mini of 2010. We've had a couple of other really good ones kick off in the closing months of this year as well, like most definitely.
Love
but something else actually that came out this year. Well, 3 of its 4 issues came out this year. I didn't read it, but I was raving about this fact. First was Age of Reptiles: The Journey. I don't think I looked forward to the new issue of a comic that was coming out as much as I did with every issue of Age of Reptiles, which is just like the most amazing synthesis of art and story, all coming from the pen and mind of one man, Ricardo Delgado. Just all done completely in silence, without words, and yet so much story and humanity, despite it being I've said it before. Age of Reptiles is a silent comic about the lives of dinosaurs, and they're not anthropomorphized dinosaurs. They're not cartoon dinosaurs. They don't think. It's all entirely silent. They don't think. They don't talk. This is the story of wild animals, and yet it is so human, so amazingly filled with just stuff that'll really sear you. Searing humanity was one of the quotes I believe I read used in direction of it. Like so inhuman and so amazingly human at the same time. I remember whenever I first read there was just going to be another Age of Reptiles miniseries, and I just plotzed. And the Age of Reptiles omnibus, collecting that miniseries and the previous 2 Age of Reptiles miniseries from the 90s, is being released in the next month. So I strongly encourage everybody to check that out. It is very much unlike anything else you will read. So yeah, you should read that.
So who do we say? I mean, as far as, and kind of, I guess, close it out, and this will be an odd and difficult question, but who do we think won this year between DC and Marvel? I mean, who really?
Oh God!
Did one really outshine the other, or is it just?
They both did a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad things too.
Mm.
But I don't know.
Well, we talked about our disappointments last week, and we haven't brought them back up, but most of our disappointments came from DC. The new Booster Gold creative team, Straczynski on Wonder Woman and Superman being...
Oh, God, now you remind me. I totally forgot, and you reminded me.
Oh. It seems like a lot of
it
what
was DC, not Marvel. It was DC. I forgot.
That is...
A lot of what DC did this year seemed like steps in the wrong direction. I mean, yes, they've done this holding the line at $2.99, the price thing, and they tried the secondary features to justify the increased price cost, which Marvel didn't do. I mean, Marvel really didn't justify the increased price cost, but purely on a creative level, with the advent particularly of the heroic age, creatively Marvel seems to have taken more steps in the right direction than I think DC did this year, because DC hasn't done a lot of new stuff that has really blown anybody away this year. I mean, the big new creative steps they've taken were, Straczynski on Wonder Woman.
We all know how that went.
And Brightest Day has been
Marvel's done better to get me to pick up new books like New Avengers, Secret Avengers, whatnot. DC, I don't think I've picked up as much new stuff this year.
I mean,
they have been setting the world on fire. I mean, Brightest Day has been entertaining. It hasn't been any D2, whereas the superior of the two bi-monthly books, Generation Lost, really does seem to have floated by under the radar. I know it's gone by under my radar,
Yeah.
I would not know nearly as much about what's going on in that book if it wasn't for talking about it on here.
God, all the potential of JMS, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Brightest Day didn't really bring any kind of new era of things. Where Marvel was doing this heroic age, hey, everything's shiny and happy and look, Brightest Day has happened, but there hasn't been a world of knock-on. Basically the best thing we got out of... I said the best thing we got out of DC was The Flash. That was the best new thing to happen in DC in the last year.
Yeah.
And it's about the only really new, notable, exciting thing to have been spawned by Brightest Day. Whereas you look over at Marvel and you see the creative success that they're enjoying with the Avengers books. I mean, the main Avengers book is getting better and better after an admittedly wobbly start. And New Avengers has just been great. Avengers Academy has launched, The Children's Crusade, Hickman's Fantastic Four, and pardon me, I'm going to lose my voice a little bit here.
They're actually going to kill off one of the Deadpool comics. They have five series of Thor going.
That's a great creative choice. Actually knocking the amount of Deadpool we've been going through on the head. Because we went into this year at the height of Deadpool mania.
Mm-hmm. It was 5, isn't it? 5 series?
It was 5 at the time, but one of those was always about to end and be replaced with
Wait a minute.
There was a little overlap.
So there are 5 monthly Deadpool comics?
No, there's Deadpool. There was Deadpool. Deadpool Mark with a Mouth.
How the hell did I miss that?
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool Mark with a Mouth, which was going to be replaced with Deadpool Core, but they overlapped for a little while. Deadpool, Team Up, and... God, I'm sure there was another one.
I knew Deadpool was popular, but I didn't know he was that popular.
There were a lot of mini-series and one-shots. And, of course, they had that month of Deadpool variant covers and that famous Deadpool variant to Siege and Deadpool guest starring in everything. We entered the year at the height of Deadpool mania, and now as we're coming out of the year, it is very obvious that Marvel have observed the overexposure of the character. I mean, they're running an ad in the comics, for goodness sake, that's saying, which of these do we need to cancel?
Yeah.
So the word is that both Team Up and War are being cancelled.
Well,
I think they've waited too long to make a Deadpool movie now. I don't think they can conceivably make a Deadpool movie at this point.
yeah, I think it's well. There's a lot of things that's going against that. I mean, one is the obvious, which is that the character's been overexposed, and I don't think the public is even ready for that character. Two, they had planned on having Ryan Reynolds helm that, and now I think he's gonna be way too tied to Green Lantern for that to really be effective. And yeah, I mean, do we need a Deadpool movie? I would love to have one. Don't get me wrong. I still like Deadpool, and I purposely not read all of this Deadpool popularity nonsense because I want to continue to like that character. So I'm going to wait until he drifts back into the shadows, and then I'll start reading again.
There's nothing wrong with that character, but I can think of a million other Marvel characters I'd rather get a movie from first.
Absolutely.
Before him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it won't work. I mean, my thing is like, part of, you talk about comic as a medium, and part of what makes Deadpool work is the fact that he is a comic book character. The fact that he can have two different thought bubbles talking to each other.
That's
at the
only
same
a
time.
recent invention of Deadpool. That's only something that Daniel Way has thrown onto the new Deadpool. Everything does it now, and it actually really annoys me because Joe Kelly didn't need to piss around with this. Joe Kelly's Deadpool is still the best Deadpool. Well, and I'll tell you, anybody who's looking for a Deadpool book and is willing to spend the money on the Deadpool classic, that's the best Deadpool.
But I mean, it's kind of integral as far as, and I mean, not even the two thought bubbles, but even one. And even going back to some of the in-joke and stuff, you can't get some of those things if you're not really in. It's almost insider stuff. Some of the stuff that makes it.
Well, I don't know. I'm playing Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions at the minute, and I just finished last night the level with Deadpool. And they really,
I haven't got that yet.
They really made the changeover very Ultimate Deadpool.
He's Ultimate Deadpool, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. But they instead of talking about comic book things, he was just talking about video game things. So whenever there's a sequence in that, whenever you have this, it's a race sequence. You have to outrace a tidal wave webbing from oil rig to oil rig. He just keeps appearing on flashing video screens over the top and delivering commentary like it was a horse race, talking about how, gonna lose this level, coming up fast behind on shaky thumbs and sweaty controllers taking the lead. They were really able to transfer the character.
Oh, talking about Deadpool and video games, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, doesn't he have a move where he hits you with his life bar?
Probably, yeah.
I think that's awesome if that's true. I think he does.
Even his inclusion in that game is coming a bit late.
Yeah.
So.
But I heard Howard the Duck was in it.
Well, oh, yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah. I heard MODOK
She-Hulk's in it. Oh, my God. I got so excited when that happened.
I heard MODOK is in it as well.
MODOK's in it. MODOK looks awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to play it.
So,
right, well, that's 2010, and I think we've spent an hour on that. So let's talk about let us talk about the first week of 2011.
Yeah. Well, maybe just a little bit of that last week of 2010.
Yes.
So, all right, so we'll go into review mode.
Barricade 64 says in the chat, I want my Luke Cage movie with him going around saying "Sweet Christmas" and Jive Turkey.
Isn't the guy from the Old Spice commercial? Isn't he wanting to do that?
I heard that, but you know who it should be? It should be I've totally forgotten his name.
The Rock.
Terry Crews. Terry Crews.
Okay.
The dad from Everybody Hates Chris.
Okay, yeah. I think I know.
Big, huge guy. Could really act and did comedy very well. He should also play Roadblock in G.I. Joe 2.
Yes, please.
Okay. So,
yes, anyway.
Triplet, what do you want to grab and talk about from last week? Going into this.
You guys talk about whatever. I got a huge stack here, so you just talk about whatever, and I'll just talk about some stuff you don't.
Okay.
Crap. What happened last week?
I assume we'll let McFeely talk about Fantastic Four. I'm just going to leave that over there.
Was that last week?
Well, last week before last, but we didn't talk about it.
What about Avengers #8? Was that last week?
Yeah, but talk away. Go ahead.
I mean, have you guys read Avengers? Did you read it before?
I have, yes.
No.
Yep, read it this week.
Okay. I mean, there's not much. I mean, it's basically continuing the story with, I believe, is it Red Hood? Is that who that guy is?
Red Hood.
The Hood. I'm sorry, not Red Hood. Red Hood is a DC character. Yeah. Is kept stealing the Infinity Gems. I guess he's reassembling the Infinity Gauntlet or something. And found out that the Illuminati, or maybe you guys already knew this, but I didn't know it, that the Illuminati split them up. And each
that was
member...
the New Avengers Illuminati mini-series.
Yeah.
They had the gems.
So they split them up, and I guess each member of the Illuminati kept one, and it looks like he's captured 2 at this point, I think. Power, which he used to beat the bloody hell out of the Red Hulk, which was the only good thing about the last issue.
That was awesome.
And this issue kind of recaps that, because it kind of like, I don't know if it's like the same exact panels or something, but you see him beating the bloody hell out of the Red Hulk again in this issue. But this one pretty much starts off with almost kind of like going back to like the whole Illuminati meetings that they used to have. And it looks like Tony is getting them to come back because he wants to find out what's going on with the other Infinity Gems, asking all the members if they, still have their gems and whatnot. So like everybody shows up, like Doctor Strange is there, and Namor, and Professor X, and Reed Richards shows up, but Black Bolt doesn't show up. And I didn't know this. Shows what good of a comic reader I am. The Black Bolt's dead. When did I
assume
miss
that must have happened over in Realm of Kings.
I don't know. So he doesn't show up, but his wife Medusa does. And so they're just kind of like it's a talky comic. It's basically just them all talking for most of the issue.
There is at one point a flashback within a flashback.
Oh, where was that at?
Whenever Tony describes in a flashback the Red Hulk breaking into Avengers Tower, and then through his flashback, him getting beaten up by the Hood.
Oh, that's where it came in. Okay, yeah. That's messed up. But yeah, I mean, it's basically they're just trying to get everything and find out what's going on, and who they don't even know that the Hood's got the Infinity Gems. They don't know who it is, do they? Mm. They're just trying to figure it out. Red Hulk basically
tells
many
members of last issue's reading audience.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I don't know anything about that character, and if he didn't have a hood on, how was I supposed to know he was the Hood?
Go and read one of the 2 Hood miniseries. That'd be well worth your time.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically, they go to shoot, what is this place? It's the place where the Inhumans
used to be.
Yeah, where the Inhumans lived, and I guess they're looking for evidence as to who's taken Black Bolt's Infinity Gem. And shoot, what happens at the end of it? Oh, the other Avengers.
Oh, that was awesome. Maria Hill.
Basically, we have a conversation. It's like Steve Rogers and everybody.
Everybody has found out about the Illuminati.
Yeah.
That was holy crap. I mean, I was like, that is awesome. I really want to see what happens next.
So next issue looks like it's Avengers versus the Secret Avengers versus the New Avengers.
Also, I love the thing's little earmuffs.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their winter gear on. So for most characters, that seems to involve gloves and balaclavas, but Spidey's pulled on a little beanie hat, and the thing has some earmuffs.
Yeah. So yeah, next issue should be good. And this
I
issue
really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, this issue wasn't bad. It's just that again, it's like this is a comic where, like you were saying, like like a flashback within a flashback. It seems to recycle lots of stuff, because like they even did that in previous issues. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's nothing in here that's actually recycled. There's none of the art's actually recycled. The only fight with the Hulk last issue we got was a page of him punching him.
Yeah.
And we actually skipped over the fight, and I maintain that it's deliciously cathartic to actually see the Red Hulk get the shit beat out of him.
But I mean, it kind of feels like, okay, like this issue we find out some stuff, but like in previous, like the early Avengers issues, it's like it's kind of moving really slow. You know what I mean? Because we've moved ahead a little bit, but we haven't like jumped ahead what I feel like 2 issues should be for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I don't know. I've been enjoying this more than the first of the first story arc.
I enjoyed it.
Because Wonder Man hasn't popped up and randomly done something that has no bearing on the plot.
Yeah.
So that everybody can then be distracted by fucking Apocalypse dropping it.
I can't wait for Wonder Man to show back up again, just so we can say he's a dick again.
He is a dick.
But that's Avengers. You know, it's okay. I wasn't crazy about it, but you know, it's a good book. What else came out last week?
All sorts of stuff.
Green Lantern 61 came out, but I'll let JD talk about that. He's the Green Lantern guy.
Oh, okay. Either way.
How about Action Comics number 896? Was it?
There you go.
Yes, go ahead.
See, I kind of wanted to talk about this one anyway because you said you bought it, didn't you, JD?
Yes, we've all got this.
I actually bought it.
Oh, did all three of you? Okay, all of us got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Awesome. Well, this is probably like the first issue that you guys have read of Action, so what do you think about Action Comics?
It read like a Secret Six issue written by someone not Gail Simone.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's probably like not the best issue to come into his Action Comics because it basically is just a Secret Six story with a little bit of Lex Luthor on the side is what it looks like.
Yeah, it seems to have very little to actually do with whatever's going on in Action Comics right now.
Yeah. See, because like the previous issue, which I don't know if you guys read it or not, but it was all about Lex Luthor and Vandal Savage, you know, kind of their history. And how before Vandal Savage even met Lex Luthor, like, you know, centuries before, he knew who he was because there's some sort of prophecy or something that he's got to fulfill for him. And then, like, the whole issue was about him meeting him in different periods in the DC comic universe and then just him kind of trying to trick Lex Luthor into helping him. And Lex Luthor just kind of, like, you know, ignoring him the whole time throughout DC history. And you know, him just basically getting pissed off and saying, hey, I'm going to go to Lex Tower, and I'm just going to threaten to blow up his tower if he doesn't give me what I want. And that's how this issue starts. He's in the tower, and he's holding him hostage. But actually, the issue kind of starts with Secret Six coming into the rescue, and then sort of like a flashback of why Secret Six is there. And we get the little meeting between Lex and, what's her name? Scandal, yeah. And them basically coming to an agreement over something. We're not sure exactly what it is, but Lex basically saying, if you help me, then you can have this, you know, showing her something. But, shoot, I read this comic, but I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. I remember a lot of fighting.
That's the body of a lot of the comic, is everybody fights.
I think it was basically just a big fight. I remember Lois robot freaking out and turning into a giant gun-armed robot woman. You know.
There was an exchange between her and Mr. Mind too, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was some of the more interesting stuff, and it means very little to me.
Yeah, that goes back to I think the first issue of Action.
Mr.
Mr. Mind showed up. Yeah. But yeah,
he's taken over Amanda Waller, and it's been observed that back during the first issue, when she hit one of Mr. Mind, when Lois Robot hit one of Mr. Mind's henchmen, it infected him with nanites that actually prompted him to dangle Lex Luthor over the edge of the building, which is
we're beginning to look and see that the Lois Robot might not be all what she appears to be.
Yes, there's somebody else involved, who is in turn somebody in opposition to whoever is behind Mr. Mind as well. So there are layers within layers within layers here that I'm really looking forward to eventually reading about in the trade.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first mention of that. I mean, the Lois Robot, we haven't gotten any mention of her being a threat to Lex. So if you're like, wow, you know, that came out of left field, well, it came out of left field for me too. Actually.
Yeah, but then she got slagged, so,
Yes. Randall Savage cleaved her in two.
Yeah, so that
yeah. I like to think that maybe there's like another one, and like Lex is going to have like, you know, a backup, because you know he's going to have a backup for everything. So I like to think that character's not gone yet.
Probably not. I mean, I would assume not, so.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Continued in this week's Secret. Next week, I believe it's our Secret 6.
Yep.
Yeah, to be concluded in Secret 629, and it looks like the building's going to blow up because somebody pressed the button. Who pressed the button? Was it Vandal?
Stump a rock.
Yeah, it just fell. It fell on something.
Yeah, it fell on a rock, yeah. But next issue is going to have the Joker in it of Action Comics, so that's why you guys need to read the next issue.
Yeah, I'll be rushing to grab that.
I'll get to that. I will too. I actually
I
will.
probably
But I'll wait
won't.
till the collection. I'm still really annoyed that the first volume isn't out until the last week of March. What the hell is that? Seriously, DC, get your friggin' shit straight.
So, did you take the time to read the Jimmy Olsen backup just to kind of get an idea of it, or did you kind of skip over it?
You know what?
I'm
I didn't.
going to, but I haven't yet. I have
It's-
heard very good things about Jimmy Olsen.
It's
but-
pretty good. I mean, I'm surprised at how good it is, and saddened that they're going to be taking it out of it. But it's pretty good, man. I don't think I read this one, but I've been reading the others. I think this one started. I don't know if it continued the previous stories, because like the previous stories, like an alien invasion, and it was really kooky because like they played up that Jimmy Olsen is basically like saving the universe. Like, you know, people don't know it, but like Jimmy Olsen is like saving the universe from like evil genies and aliens and, you know, giant robots and stuff. And the oh, come on, it's pretty good.
It's Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal for the present generation.
Yeah, but when he had like the aliens visit Earth because our oxygen makes them high, that was awesome. And he had to watch over the princess, and the princess kept hitting on him. That was pretty good. But yeah, I like it. It's good. It's kind of. I mean, it's Silver Age-ish. I like that about it. It's fun. We were just talking about fun in comics. Okay, but we'll move on from that.
It's the closeness and association to Superman. I can't. Sorry.
It's all right. I'll forgive you.
This one.
But shoot, what else? What else came out last week? Green Lantern. You want to talk about Green Lantern? Or do we
Yeah.
move forward?
Okay. Well, we'll kind of. There's not too much more, I guess. So, well, why don't you go ahead, McFeely? What did you want to hit?
Oh God, I got too much stuff. Random selection here. What's good? Shield came out. Was this last week? I don't even know, because the UK didn't get Marvel last week, so I didn't have anything to talk about last week anyway. So I've read everything this week, so I don't know what. But Shield was out this week. Now, Shield is another one of Hickman's books. I love Shield, but it is starting to get a bit of flack here and there, because the question is starting to be raised: how long do you give a plot? Well, no, how long do you give a comic before you really need it to start making sense? Because Shield is only edging towards that.
How much time did Grant Morrison get? Years. So.
Well, this is true.
Yeah.
I mean, but then, you know, it's like out of the gate, Batman and Son made sense internally. You know, it was his grand tapestry that took a long time to come together. Whereas, you know, I would still be a little bit hard pushed to actually tell you what Shield is about. But this issue of Shield is mainly about Nathaniel Richards and Howard Stark, who we've met in previous issues as agents of Shield, who were caught in an explosion with the Night Machine, the father of the main protagonist of this book, Leonid. And we rejoin them in this issue, discovering that the explosion has catapulted them several 100,000 years into the future of Earth. So they're on some vast jungle, overgrown jungle planet. And scenes of them exploring their way around are intercut with scenes of them in the early part of the 50s joining up with S.H.I.E.L.D. and discussing what to do. And I think there are echoes of Hickman's Fantastic Four in here as well, because basically they have to tell their families that they won't be coming back. Not because they will die, but because they simply won't be allowed. And Nathaniel finds that he can't do it. He doesn't tell them that he's going anywhere. Yeah. Whereas Howard Stark decides that he's just going to fake his death rather than have to go through that with his family. So these are two men who are completely avoid the issue for completely different reasons in completely different ways. And it's one of the more interesting scenes in the issue because it is a nice self-contained character study instead of something that's mired in the high concept of the series. Like the other intercut scenes we get in this issue, which are three double-page spreads, which span 57, 58, and 59, and 60. Sorry, 4 double-page spreads, which just cover the flow of time as the human machine, the device that Leonardo da Vinci brought forward in time earlier in the comic, begins to evolve, growing like an atom, or like a particle from element through element. And the Star Child, the celestial baby whose birth he midwifed from the sun last issue, fucking awesome comic.
What the hell?
I know, right? As it begins to grow and learn. And the human machine begins to grow and become the elements of life. So it's about these two polar opposites, interrelated concept entities growing, while Da Vinci begins preaching a different methodology to Isaac Newton. And so S.H.I.E.L.D. begins to split in two, with one each side gaining their own followers as these two things grow and mature over the course of the years. And as Nostradamus says, pay attention. Now things get interesting. And then the comic ends when we return to Nathaniel and Howard searching some ruins. I don't know if they're the ruins of Chronopolis or what, but there's a giant sphinx-like statue of Immortus, so that's how forward in the future we're talking here. And they find some kind of strange bird woman who leads them to the body of the Night Machine. And they tell him that they're looking for the Night Machine to use his tech to get them all back home, back to their proper times. But then the twist ending of the issue, going to spoil it right here and now, reveals that turns out the Night Machine, Leonid's father, is Nikola Tesla. And this issue is called The Forgotten Machines of Nikola Tesla.
What?
When is that trade paperback coming out? I need to read this.
Wow. This is issue 5, so I would assume that there will be at least one volume out after it hits 6 issues. But that's, I'm only presuming that, frankly, because we know S.H.I.E.L.D. is finite in some sense, but not how finite it is. So, if it's only going to be like 8 issues long or something, I was going to wait till then to complete, to publish the story arc.
I really hate that I missed getting that, but like my comic shop didn't get S.H.I.E.L.D. #1 at all. I think they got like 2 copies of it, and I couldn't get it. And if they reprinted it, I missed it again. So I really want that trade to come out.
I mean, you were away from the mic there whenever I was just saying. I mean, some people are starting to say now, and it's a justified comment, which is, how long do you give a story before it starts making sense? And S.H.I.E.L.D. really hasn't quite got there yet. I will be fair, but there's just enough majesty in the high concepts that the comic keeps throwing at me, and the pretty, pretty art to keep me coming back issue after issue. Particularly given the fact that it's bi-monthly signifies something big about it, but it's still only $3 to an issue. So I'm enjoying it for all of the brain bendingness that's going on. There's something vaguely Morrison-esque about it, but
that's what interests me, because it sounds like that, and I want to read it back.
Its ideas don't feel quite as refined. They don't feel quite as refined as Morrison, and the story itself doesn't stand apart from them too well, the way a well-sculpted Morrison story will. But I'm still really enjoying it, and I'm always eagerly look. There's always something that makes me go, oh damn! Like we found out Isaac Newton was the fucking immortal mastermind behind S.H.I.E.L.D. and had Nostradamus chained up in his basement, or stuff like that. There's always something really weird that happens in every issue.
You said Nathaniel Richards, you said Howard Stark, and you said Immortus all in the same issue. I want to read it.
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm still not sure what to make of them running around in the 50s, because, I'm just not sure about the continuity or the chronology of the whole thing, because they're not young men there in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
How old does that make Tony Stark and Reed Richards? But I'm less concerned about that sort of thing. You just read it and get on with it, really.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do I have? God, I got a load of Hickman. I got Secret Warriors and Ultimate Thor this week as well. I'm not going to talk at any length about them, but they continue to be good. Ultimate Thor continues to reveal more and more how it's a prologue to the Ultimates. It shows how Loki got trapped in the room without doors, and we still haven't found out how Thor wound up Amnesiac, and well, not Amnesiac, but how Thor wound up in the scenario he was in at the start of the Ultimates. But I imagine that's issue 4. And mythologically, there's some interesting overlap with the Loki miniseries as well. Just because it's dealing about Ragnarok and the death of Balder. And Secret Warriors this week is a rather good one-shot issue. Quite a while back, before the book kicked into high gear, when Fury was divvying up the characters and giving them their tasks, basically they were told to go back to their quarters, they'd find an envelope that told them where and when they needed to be. And one character, Druid, the overweight, nervous magician, his note said, "You're a liability, go home, you're done." And we haven't seen him for like 7 months. But in this issue, done in one issue, we found out that he went home, and there waiting for him was one of Fury's men who told him, "There is no out." And he's been training his ass like a mother for the last 7 months or however long, getting him training him in the use of his powers, and basically getting him to come in and save everybody from the cliffhanger at the end of the last issue. There's not much left to Secret Warriors now, too, so I hope that it's able to carry on this good momentum of good, strong story that it's been running on for the last couple of issues. Because it had slowed down and it was a little bit at the start of this year, but it has gradually been picking steam back up. I think just as the hammer gets close to falling out and the ending comes in sight, it's just getting better and better. So that's well worth a read as well. God, I also got Fantastic Four as well. I gotta get off this Hickman.
Yeah. Apparently he's
I'm
good.
literally buying everything that dude is putting out right now. But we talked about this a little bit last week, and we lost it as well. This issue is, for the most part, set up for the next issue. I mean, it's not really. It's just carrying on the story. But ultimately, at the climax of this issue, everybody is in a position where they can die next issue. So she's still trying to broker the treaty between old Atlantis and new Atlantis, although it turns out that she's been pretty much caught in the middle of a scenario where she's inevitably going to die. Atlantean prophecy, never a pleasant thing. Reed has been taken off into the corner of the universe somewhere to explain to Galactus why there is the corpse of a dead Galactus from the future buried somewhere on Earth. And basically he's been given the task to save everybody that's on New World. Because this is Hickman playing the long game once again. Because Reed now believes that he can save everybody on New World, which he couldn't do it before. He couldn't. It goes back to Miller's run, in which the inhabitants of the dying Earth of the future were going to be teleported back in time by a team of characters who come back from the future, including an old invisible woman, to modern-day Earth. And they used the Galactus of the future to power their machine. And that killed him, and that's where that corpse came from. If you were wondering, if you didn't read Miller's run. But ultimately, in the same storyline, they also introduced the idea of a manufactured Earth that the big corporations of the planet had built to save the best of Earth whenever the planet eventually died. And so the Fantastic Four shunted everybody from the future off to New Earth. And it was a happy ending. Until Jonathan Hickman came along and actually talked about how time passed faster on that Earth. Everything turned to hell, and now it's circling a black hole on the cusp of death as everybody in the world lives in deadly squalor. And Galactus is going to chow down on this planet. And so Reed has been given the challenge of saving everybody on it. But he now believes that he can after the events of Solve Everything, Hickman's first story arc, in which all of the incredible things that all the Reeds from all across reality have done. There are supplies and provisions and places that can feed and house all of the people of this Earth. But Galactus is giving them... How long is he giving them?
So like a day?
Yeah, something like a day, yeah. But basically, he's giving them, until he's ready to eat, until he's finished building his world-eating machine. He's giving them until that. So that's what Reed's doing. Reed is staring the jaws of death, trying to save a planet from Galactus, while Ben and Johnny are defending the Baxter Building against an incursion from Annihilus's negative zone city, Annihilus's anti-cult. Yeah, any one of them could die at this point. So, besides recapping the plot, I don't have a world of things to say about the issue, because it does very much feel like a link in the chain. And also because I am disproportionately excited for the finale of this, despite decades of precedents telling me otherwise. My own common sense, I should not telling me I should not be excited about the forthcoming, air quotes, death of a character. And yet, oh my God, bring it on.
You know, it's strange, you know, because we shouldn't care about stuff like that, but it's just morbid curiosity, I guess, is what gets the best
I
of
couldn't
us.
even call it morbid curiosity. I mean, I just think he's really going to do it right. Whatever happens, I just think it's going to come off right. And I fully expect the character to be back in a year.
And let's also say who we think it is, because I think we lost that from
I think we did,
last episode. Human Torch, we all said we think it's going to be him.
Well, all the intelligent speculation seems to be favoring him. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other, because I can see it being any of them. Johnny is just the one who hasn't died before, but he has done so little in Hickman's run overall that I would be surprised if he dies. You know?
Yeah, I think it's going to be.
Definitely.
I think it's going to be Johnny, just for the issue where it goes back and Franklin said that, you know, you're my hero or something. You know,
he said that his favorite hero is still the Human Torch.
It's still the Human Torch. Yeah,
gives me the impression that there's something there that he did that was worthy of that admiration. And I think too, I mean, if you look at the teaser image, you know, we're pretty sure it's not going to be Sue, based on the teaser image for 3, you know, for the series coming up after 3.
The issue after the death issue is being promoted as the final issue of Fantastic Four, and the next month it's going to be FF number 1 is going to get released, and that's got these 3 interlocking hexagons on the cover, and one of the hexagons is transparent. So we're just assuming off of that Sue will live.
Yeah, and you know, I don't, you know, despite I had a Twitter discussion with Newsarama, whoever runs their Twitter, a couple weeks ago, and you know, they seemed to be pretty adamant that it was going to be Reed, but I just don't see him doing that. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, I could see why anybody would think that, because Reed has been absolutely at the core of everything that has happened in Hickman's Fantastic Four, but it seems almost too obvious.
And I think I think that's the breaking element. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that he's the core. What's Hickman gonna do based on everything that's come before if Reed isn't there?
I think there's so much more story potential. So much more story potential if they kill Johnny, because then we see how that affects everybody else, because it's going to feed into their stories.
Well, Cassius has just said in the chat, if Johnny hasn't done much, that might make him expendable. But that doesn't feel like the attitude that's being taken towards this. It's not like he's offing somebody because he's deliberately kept him off the field because of that. There will be ramifications to this. I can't.
Yeah, I mean,
I fully expect FF to last about 12 issues, and then we'll have Fantastic Four 600 in about a year's time, and whoever's dead will come back.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah.
And even though I know this, or at least have this mapped out in my head, you know, I'm still wetting myself in anticipation for this comic.
I'm excited. I think for comic lovers, I think it's a good event. I don't think this is not one of those things where it's like Death of Superman or you know, Death of Batman or something, which I think is, I mean, not that those weren't interesting-ish stories, but I think those things, you know, even like this upcoming Death of Spider-Man and Ultimate, I think these are things that are sort of media hypey kind of stuff that is going to get press. But this doesn't.
I don't know this well, yeah.
I mean, it's not. I don't think this is going to get a lot of press, but I think within the comic book appreciation, you know, within the community, I think that this is a bigger deal for us.
Yeah, I just can't see this being a big headline grabber unless it's a really quiet news week, you know. It will remain to be seen. Much like, you know, the sellout of Superman Earth 1 was caused by it being a really quiet news week, and a lot of American newspapers covering the release of the book. But I really don't want it to be covered in all over newspapers, because if they're actually polybagging the damn comic to prevent spoilers, I would hope they would have the decency to not release the information to papers.
Right.
Yeah. It's gonna be blackout that day for me, not anything.
I'm gonna have to like keep my head down, not read Twitter, not read, not read Twitter, not read comic, not read any of the news or anything, just to try to.
Knowing my luck, I'll be playing Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and there'll be an update, and it'll say, "Hey, Johnny died in Fantastic Four" or something in the update.
I'm rarely that bothered. I'm rarely that bothered about trying to avoid. I mean, I usually try to avoid spoilers, but I don't usually get too worked up about it. But I really, really don't want to be spoiled on this.
Yeah.
I suppose the more I say that on the air here, the more likely some bastard is going to drop me a line.
Now, our listeners
if you
aren't
want
those.
another bit of Fantastic Four this week, go and check out the What If issue 200 last week, I think. The 200th issue of What if you add up all the individual series and one-shots and things. The lead story is a fairly uninteresting. What if Norman Osborn had won Siege by Mark Guggenheim with some really nice art? No, I do have to say, some really nice, painterly artwork. Ooh, I've just kicked something. That was a toothbrush. But the draw, as far as I was concerned, was the second story in the issue, which is What If the Watcher Had Killed Galactus by Stan Lee.
Huh.
With art by Dale Eaglesham, who was Hickman's first partner on Fantastic Four. And it is very 1960s Fantastic Four, just breakneck jumping from thing to thing. You don't even see the Watcher fire the shot that kills Galactus in the comic. But a wonderful little twist in the ending that I didn't see coming. And there's a retrospective article in the history of What If with Roy Thomas in there. A bunch of creators weigh in on their favorite What Ifs, and the favorite What If of the issue's editor, Ed Brubaker, and Captain America, What If Elektra Had Lived, is reprinted in its entirety in this issue as well. And
written by Frank Miller too, wasn't it?
Yep, by Frank Miller. Which was, I think, one of the points they make is it's one of the first What Ifs to actually be drawn by the creator of the story that the What If was actually being asked about.
Right.
And that was the draw of it. And there's a checklist of all the What Ifs in the back. So there's a lot of content, and there's a $5 comic, and as I say, the lead strip is very, very nice to look at. But it's basically what if Ares had cottoned on to the fact Norman Osborn was lying earlier and had attempted to kill Norman. As he promised he would cut Norman's head off if he found out Norman was lying, and he basically twigged to Norman's lies earlier. But then the Sentry came in and killed Ares there and then, so he was all nice and rested up for the final battle and kicked everybody's ass, and Norman won Siege. And basically the answer is shit got worse. It's one of those grim what ifs where basically everybody dies. And
a lot of what ifs are grim anyway. I mean, there's always bad stuff happening a lot of times. The ones that stick out in my mind, like shoot, I don't know if this one's a particularly good one, but kind of sticks out in my mind. Like what if Hulk? What if Wolverine killed the Hulk? You ever read that one?
I haven't read that one. No.
Yeah, I mean, basically he joins the X-Men and everybody dies.
I just remember that. I remember What If Civil War had two stories in it, and one was like, what if? I think the question might have even been the same either way, and basically there was one grim one where everybody died and registration was the doom of the world. And then there was one story where they all, Tony and Steve set their differences aside, teamed up, and everything turned out nice for everybody. I guess that doesn't make for a particularly dramatic storytelling, but it's just nice whenever it works out well for everybody sometimes.
You know the best what if story? What if Spider-Girl existed? Because it spawned.
Yes, well, that was definitely one of the most big what ifs.
I'm sorry, I had to mention that.
No, you're quite right. I mean, for an ongoing series out of it. JD stepped away from the mic for a moment, so what else do I have to fill for time until he comes back? Children's Crusade was also at sometime in the last 2 weeks, and thankfully something. I mean, I have enjoyed this series. I have. But I've said in previous installments, not a hell of a lot has been happening in it since this first issue. It's just been a lot of people standing around and talking really grumpily about how they should maybe do something. And they finally get to doing something in this issue, so that's good. and they found the Scarlet Witch, who is in the. It basically turns out that, despite what everybody was thinking, Doctor Doom hasn't been holding the Scarlet Witch at all. Somehow, in some way, for some reason, she actively sought him out, and now they are engaged to be married. And we get a pocketed history of the Scarlet Witch and her craziness and the Young Avengers, before, unfortunately, all the other Avengers turn up and Wolverine gets really kill-happy.
So is the Scarlet Witch still crazy? I mean, because I have no idea what they've done with her.
She's acting quite sane, but she doesn't remember who she is. And then there's a rather surprise last page return. I this came out this week, so I won't blow the last page return, because basically on the second to last page there's a speech balloon of particular shape and color going, "Not if I can help it," and I was like, what is that, blue and red? Wait a minute, is that? And then I turned the page and I was like, oh damn, it actually is! Wait, what the hell? So there was a bit of a what the hell finale to this one, which has my interest peaked definitely. And this remains very important point, a gorgeous book to actually look at. And it is more than people standing around a table or a field or a tower discussing what they should maybe be doing. And Doctor Doom is in it.
You can't go wrong with that.
No. Doom, all things are better with Doom. Thrust in Doom.
Doom and salt. It's sort of the salt. Doom. No? Okay.
Doom.
Yeah. Doom.
Just
Doom.
What about you, JD? What do you got?
Okay, so let's see. I got 3 right here that I wanted to talk about. One is going to be Green Lantern 61, which really should be called Red Lantern sub-issue, because most of this is Red Lantern stuff.
Oh, wait. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we didn't mention that there's going to be a Red Lantern comic series, did we?
There is.
There is. I totally forgot about that. I heard about that. They're going to... I mean, you guys haven't heard that? Later on they're coming out with a Red Lantern comic series?
I'd heard some sort of rumble about it.
Yes.
It was actually happening or not.
But I don't know. Just thought I'd mention it while it was on my mind, before I forgot again. But yeah, there's a Red Lantern comic series possibly coming out with this guy in it.
So this issue's interesting. I mean, like I said, the larger focus here is on Atrocitus.
Yeah, I'm just seeing it here announced that the Red Lantern Corps will receive an ongoing series written by Peter Milligan.
Yeah.
Don't know what I think about that.
It does have Dexter in it, though, which sounds awesome.
Well, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
But go ahead, JD. Continue.
No, so issue starts out, I don't know, there's 2 people in a truck. I'm not sure where they're coming from.
It's rather irrelevant.
It doesn't really matter, other than somebody was sort of violent, so Atrocitus sort of killed them, and then used their
sort of
blood. Not completely. Actually, he did, but sort of destroys their truck and kills them, and uses their blood to sort of channel and figure out, because him and Sinestro had been hunting the Butcher, which is the Red Lantern entity, and he tracks it to the execution of a convict, and so and then it cuts, of course, to this execution, and it cuts to the Butcher, coming in and to try to find a host. What I love was this sort of switcheroo, and I think it's an interesting insight into the Rage entity, and again, some of what's been happening both here in Green Lantern and then also in Brightest Day is to sort of adjust or flip around what we may think of the entities, because we've really up until this point only been exposed to 2, and it hadn't been, I don't think, very clear how they functioned or worked. And so you expect, and my expectation, I think most readers' expectation would be that he was coming to get the convict guy, but it's not. It's the victim's father that he ends up possessing because of all of the rage that he's feeling at the death of his daughter at the hands of this murderer or whatever. And basically a large scene ensues as Spectre shows up and him and the Butcher go at it. Apparently they have quite a history that
Well, that's logical.
which it does. They sort of overlap. So they get into it a bit, but the Butcher does end up possessing the guy, which, oh man, does he look badass. I think that's my favorite looking entity so far.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I mean, the art really makes it, but wow. Just probably, I mean, it's second only to the Predator, but, or no, not second. This is first and Predator would be second, but wow. I mean, huge horn, sort of, bony appendage, and just all sort of assortment of blades, including a huge two-handed sort of axe with the Red Lantern symbol built in. Just a vicious looking costume. Takes the two-handed axe into the Spectre's face. I mean, this is, and there's a lot of conversation though going back and forth about the possession of the entity, Atrocitus's place, and everything. Him trying to execute, basically take out Vengeance, and Atrocitus trying to stop. You get. I think this is a larger insight into Atrocitus. I think that's one of those characters where early on in this run, especially from Blackest Night, this character had the potential to be very two-dimensional. Oh, he's just blind rage. And this issue really opens that up.
This issue opens up the entire concept of rage, because this is basically the first possessed dude that you're really actually rooting for.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a funny way, because I mean this is one of the two emotions or elements or whatever that are the two extremes of the spectrum, with the most uncontrollable and wild emotions, and really apart from Adara, the Hope entity, none of the other entities have been presented as being good. Yeah, Ion would be another one.
Yeah.
But everybody else that's been possessed has run around doing bad things, and so has this guy. But you want to root for him because he's just trying to avenge his daughter, and I just think it's a really, really nice twist on, as you say, something that's been pretty two-dimensional. I mean, we've seen hints of things going on with Atrocitus. We're getting the bigger picture now, and just showing that sometimes rage is all that you have left.
Right.
And it's all you can just immerse yourself in the end. And that's not a good thing, but you can see why these characters like Atrocitus and this poor guy that gets possessed, you can't condemn them entirely. And I'm really quite impressed that they've decided to go that route with this.
Yeah, and
given the way they've treated the other things.
Yeah, and you see, I mean, even at the end of all of this, I mean, and of course the guy ends up offing the convict, the Butcher, as he's possessed by the Butcher. And at the end, Spectre tries to judge him, and Atrocitus basically stops him. But he doesn't. What's interesting is that he doesn't stop him physically. He has, he makes an argument. He actually makes a sort of logical argument with the Spectre, and basically gets the Spectre to agree that he shouldn't be judged. Which I thought is brilliant. I mean, it's so easy to default to. Yes. Well, I mean, first of all, it's easy to default to the physical fight, where they say, okay, the Spectre would just be beaten by Atrocitus. I mean, we could believe that Atrocitus was that strong, but to have the character actually talk him down and make a reasonable argument to say, no, your concept is an eye for an eye, and yet that's not true, because obviously one person will have value over another. His rage is justified versus the murderer. So you're saying that these two people are equal when obviously they aren't. And then I think the Spectre even starts to try to judge Atrocitus and stops. I think he says that he can't be judged because his mission against Corona is a holy one. So larger implications there as well. I mean, for this being a Green Lantern issue where not a single Green Lantern appears, I really liked this issue.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it. Not that I wasn't interested in Atrocitus before, but man, I really want to see more. And like I said, now that we know that there's going to be a series coming up, I'll be very interested to see where that goes as well. So.
I like how it ends also where it says I hate them, and then it says most of them, and it shows the dude that got turned into the butcher.
Well, yeah, because he identifies with that guy.
Yeah.
He
knows rage.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, definitely some of these guys, like Lefleys and Atrocitus, have definitely seemed like they could be very one-dimensional. And just recently, they have started to play with the ideas behind. Because there are reasons. I mean, this thing about Hal Jordan is like, oh, he's really willful. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's something behind the character. Not so much, but there are reasons why characters who are victim to these harmful emotions are the way they are, and they really are exploring these stories. I mean, and also like it's a good thing this was a good issue, because the fact that it doesn't follow up on last month's cliffhanger at all is a real tease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
what was last month's cliffhanger? I don't even remember.
Corona.
Yeah.
Oh
Krona.
yeah. Oh yes.
Well, the only mention again is that his mission against Krona is holy, but that's the only mention of it. I mean, it really kind of leaves that hanging out there for a whole nother month of waiting for that. So
it's kind of weird,
So, anyway, good stuff out of that. Something amazing happened. I bought the next issue of Osborn.
Yay!
Hi.
Hooray!
And wow, I was not disappointed. This continued to be good stuff. I mean, the beginning of this issue is Osborn having an entire conversation with the priest, and he's talking about ethical processes of the hyena, and how he makes an interesting argument to basically say that perspective is reality, so to speak, and those who may say that a hyena is a scavenger and evil don't understand opportunity and advancement through alternate means, and how that actually helps in development. But I don't know, it was really interesting. I'm really digging the art in this, actually.
Yeah, this is barely recognizable as the Emma Rios that I have seen, admittedly only a little of, but I've seen her on the Strange miniseries by Mark Waid last year, and she did a little bit of Runaways as well, and she has come a long way in a very short period of time. Really, really digging what she's doing on this book.
Mm-hmm. But pretty much what I think, I mean, it's not that it went in a completely unexpected direction. Of course, the priest has helped Osborn as well as the other high-risk inmates, I guess, at this facility escape. You actually see them kill a guard, which is...
Oh, man, that is the most insane set of pages. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Just like an alarm starts blaring and the red hazard lights come on, and there's the alarm now, and and like progressively, everything's done like at a diagonal angle, and as you sweep across the page, like the diagonal starts to get more and more curved, and everything starts to just turn into this insane whirl, and you can really you're really sucked into this scene as the guard starts to, the alarm is driving the guard nuts, so he's clutching his head to his ears, and he's really having to bellow. And then in the midst of all that, he's being, annoyed by the inmates bickering back and forth with each other, and saying, you just really find yourself getting pulled into the sheer insanity of the scene. It's a real whirlpool of art and dialogue and events that is like one of the best, just like convergences of art and dialogue and intent I've seen outside of J.H. Williams. This is really good. Mm-hmm. And then it's like a sudden, you just turn the page and the lights are off and the shouting starts. There's a sudden cold slam into the real horrifying situation that he's allowed himself to fall. That is a fantastic set of pages.
Yeah, and especially like the denouement of just entire bit where
Oh god, yeah,
the girl, I can't remember her name, the blonde, but she
yeah, I forgot.
she basically tells him, hey, if you get them to open up the cells, then maybe you might make it out. Probably not, but it's your only shot. And so he does. He tries to raise the guy on the radio and tell him to open them, and the guy on the other side says, I can't do that. So, squish.
Unpleasant.
Oh, wow.
But a fantastic scene, like a truly bleak. I just really that double page spread of red insanity is truly fantastic. I haven't seen something like that in a comic for a while now. Just the way that you can hear you can hear it in your mind. You can hear the alarm. You can hear the characters bellowing over the top of one another as he's losing his patience, and they're staying icy calm around him. And then the sudden cold slam back into reality on the following page. That is some great work. Yeah. Just on an artistic and on a writing level. Absolutely great.
Yeah. But, in the rest of this comic, of course, Osborn actually...
Yeah, there's other good thing. Osborn's in it, too.
Osborn's in it, too. But I love this Osborn bit, because originally the priest shows up, and he's like, oh, we're going to break you out. And Osborn's like, I really want to stay. He said, I think, his point seemed to be that if he stayed, he would find a way to get out legitimately, and that would actually be more effective than escaping. So, but
and that
doesn't end up being an option because things were already in motion. And you forget things that, Osborn is actually really strong, and he, totally rips one guy apart.
Yeah, you really do. I was like, what do you do? Oh, yeah, wait, Green Goblin.
Yeah, he's a Green Goblin. Yeah, exactly. And that was and I think used that very effectively, because up to this point, he has spent so much time actually, using his wit, that you forget that he is,
he spent years just doing that, really.
He don't need no Iron Man suit.
No, he really didn't. I mean, that was all for effect and show. But yeah, he ends up recruiting the other prisoners to help him get out as well as them, and basically he even offs the least helpful of them in the midst of this. I think one as a show of power, and two just because the guy wasn't going to be very helpful. Which
it's not. He doesn't even do anything. He just allows them to kill themselves, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he just didn't help him. So.
I don't know. That thing looks pretty amphibious. So maybe it's not dead. Let's see.
Yeah.
So the verdict is I should be reading this book.
Oh, you should be reading this.
Really should.
This is really good.
I'm a Spider-Man reader, definitely, yeah.
The only thing that was kind of...
trade paperback is when I should read it, because I've not read a single issue of it
yet.
You're
only missing one issue, so, you could go get the other one and read both of these and be good.
You should be able to pick two up, I would say. It's only just out, and you can maybe back order number one. Okay. I would definitely say into it now, yeah.
So the only thing I was kind of disappointed by is in the first issue we had talked about that amazing sort of backup that gave you the backstory for that one character, and that was missing from this issue.
Yeah, well, the letters page says we're not going to get any more backups about the other inmates, and that's a bit of a disappointment because that was awesome.
It was so good. I mean, that was like a big point.
I don't know though. I think it's possible this issue may benefit from not having it, because frankly, if you're going to put Warren Ellis on a backup strip and just allow him to completely overshadow your fairly thoughtful and set-up-y first issue, it might be to the book's advantage to maybe drop your excellent Warren Ellis backups whenever you really want to get your main story rolling, because this was great. I mean, it didn't have anything to overshadow it from a more known creator in the back. That said, I do miss the backup.
Yeah, but I mean, the story was so good though. I mean, it doesn't need it. I just would have liked to have had it, but I think it's a testament again to how good the writing is in this, and two, how excellent the art is that really? It's still being carried without that little bit. It's just a little, that was just like a little side item that I really liked out of the first one. I mean, it was so creepy. I was even telling my wife about it. We went and saw Black Swan. If you haven't seen that, it's an excellent movie. But there was like a linking element because you got to see that insight into that sort of insanity, and that's what I really liked. But hey, it's okay. So I'm not gonna cry over it. I'm gonna keep reading the mini, which, yes, I know when it was announced at the end of Siege that I was like, nobody wants to read Osborn. Okay, this is good. I'm sorry, I was wrong.
I mean,
when do I ever write?
I bought it off of just purely who the writer was, Kelly Sue DeConnick. I couldn't tell you anything about it other than the fact that she's Matt Fraction's other half. I read her short with the Avengers handlers, Sharon Carter, what's her name? Maria Hill and Victoria Hand in one of the Age of Heroes anthology issues. Really enjoyed it, thought it was quite funny and told a nice, concise, action-packed story in a couple of pages, and I purely decided I'd give it a look off of the back of... you're quite right. I think a lot of people were saying, do we really need an Osborn miniseries so soon after he's been in there? I mean, there was definitely always going to be story potential in what happens to Osborn next, but this is so far beyond what you might have expected you would have been getting from what could have been a very throwaway miniseries. Has turned into a great artist and writer team, and I would really like to see these guys do something together in the future, especially, if they can continue to evolve in the short time that they have been prominent to the extent that they have already. I mean, I don't know if DeConnick has done anything for Marvel prior to little bits in Girl Comics and Age of Heroes, but if Emma Rios can keep evolving the way she has from Strange over the course of just a year until now, and so if we can get wonderful fusions of art and script the way that happens just like smack in the middle of that issue. Yes, more, please. Osborn, good.
Excellent. Okay, and my last one from last week, and then I think we'll go straight into the capper, or do we have any others?
What do you got now?
Well, how can we not talk about Flash, the Reverse Flash Rebirth?
Well, we talked about that last week, but
we loved on it so much last week that it broke the podcast.
That must have been what it was.
A while here. Maybe we should just make this one the capper.
Do we want to? I mean, yeah, I guess Brightest Day wasn't that exciting.
Yeah, Brightest Day.
It had some good stuff. I mean, there's a big fight there between, love entities and all that.
I do like how the stories are coming together a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like everybody showed up in this issue, it seemed like, except for, I think, Aquaman. Aquaman, I don't think, was in it.
Well, and Martian Manhunter wasn't it. I mean, it was three. It was Firestorm, Boston, and then the Hawk.
So it wasn't bad. It's not the best issue.
No,
Boston got himself a little nasty.
He got nasty. He got a hamburger afterwards, and he went and saw his grandpa. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, I really liked the bit with his granddad.
The grandpa part was really good. So, but anyway, I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah.
Oh, and new possessed entity of love, which is.
Oh, and what's going on with at the end with the White Lantern ring now charging up?
Yes, that's the big question.
That's the big question.
Finally did something nice. Deadpool got a little nasty, and the ring started changing. Deadpool, Dead Man, ring charging up.
Yeah.
So Dead Man is Dead Man the guy? He's just got to learn that he is the White Lantern. Is that what it is?
Maybe.
Could be.
That's what I'm getting from this.
It may be that he has to learn, they just told him that he has to find the champion and to get on with his life.
Well,
and in getting on with his life, it will be all it needs.
Yep.
That's all he needs. And I think that's what we're getting from this last page. That's what made me like this issue. Yeah.
That was our quick, fast review of Brightest Day 17, and pretty much the only thing that came out.
And Firestorm didn't destroy the universe. We need to mention that also.
Now he's in the antimatter universe, so.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Can he convert antimatter? Because he did say that he didn't sense any matter around.
Yeah, that's right. He wouldn't have sensed any matter.
Yeah, because there's no matter. It's all antimatter. Anyway, that's going to be interesting. So let's talk about the stuff that was really, really good here. The one thing that I think we were really excited about last week, and we talked about at length, that we're going to talk about at length again, which I'm actually kind of excited about, which is Flash, which actually was the Reverse Flash Rebirth.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun,
By the 2010 Spike TV Scream Award winner Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns.
Says so on the cover.
Amazing Jeff Johns. So let's talk a little bit about what we know about Reverse Flash up to this point. We know he's from the 25th century. The character had died at one point.
Barry Allen broke his neck.
Barry Allen killed him, broke his neck.
He's been dead a long time.
Long time. And then he came back inexplicably. And then Flash Rebirth.
Yeah.
Then was captured. Then during the events of Blackest Night, had the zombie version of himself raised.
Yeah.
And then at the end of Blackest Night was resurrected, but not that version of him, the captured version? Is my understanding?
No. The dead version of Professor Zoom came back to life and then proceeded to travel back in time and go and do Flash Rebirth.
Go and do Flash Rebirth. Okay.
There you go.
And then up until this point, Captain Boomerang.
Last issue, he was locked in Iron Heights until last issue.
Yeah,
and
read this issue before this issue. That's what we need.
Right. Yeah. So basically, but that's a recap for you for those that hadn't been following Professor
You
Zoom.
just read them. You read Flash Rebirth, Blackest Night, and then these issues.
Yes. Yeah. So we start out with basically right where it left off, with him escaping, and he's saying that he is free and now free to change it all, and that he's always been interested in the idea of probability. And you see a mirror shot of what appears to be the creation of the Barry Allen Flash, and then the creation of the Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom, Thawne, side by side. The rest of the comic is absolutely fascinating to me as far as the structure, because what Johns does as far as telling the story, it starts at the beginning, it kind of explains that life in the 25th century is all about time and efficiency, and that it's very important that you allocate your time properly, and everything's measured down to the second, and how much time you spend doing things. And so in the first little bit of the story here, he talks about himself, and that he was basically designed, according to what his parents wanted for him, and that he was, had blonde hair and blue eyes and 167 IQ, and, that his name was Iberd Thawne, and that his parents decided that he needed to have a brother. And, of course, because of the events of having a brother, he had to spend time with the brother, because that was part of the reason that they decided that he needed a brother, was for socialization. But that meant that he fell behind on his studies, and that meant that he didn't get as far ahead in school, and then didn't get the job that he wanted, and ended up sort of second best to his semi-bullying authority figure younger brother. And then Reverse Flash shows up and erases his brother from history. And you see this sort of inverted panel, or reverse panel, as it leads through, showing the events of the brother showing up, and then him taking care of his young brother, and then the baby, and then he says his name again and says that he was an only child.
Yeah, like even the bubbles are reversed, the words are reversed, and everything, and it's fading away. Yeah. And then it starts again with saying, "My name is Iberd Thawne, and I was an only child now."
Brilliant.
We just follow him through his life, and every time something goes wrong, red lightning crackles in the corner, time goes back, and whatever was wrong gets changed. And I love the artistic evolution of it, because the first time it happens, you get full on Reverse Flash, there he is, grabs the brother, panels play backwards.
Yeah.
And the next time it happens, you just see him come in from off panel, it's one faded panel, until by the end of it, all you need to know that is happening is just this red bolt of lightning cracks across the comic, and things change.
And, it goes so... it really at every single point. I mean, again, like the next point is that he gets a better placement in the university, but then he doesn't, get as far. Like his parents get in the way, and then they go away, and it's amazing.
But they don't get erased. Though we should mention
no,
that
he
just
kills them all.
He kills them.
Yeah, he just has
off.
them killed. But
Because if he erased them, he wouldn't exist.
Yeah. So he can't do that. But you see him molding his own future towards the destiny that he had. So it's.
But this is what I find the most fascinating about this comic. And I was, people who have read this have come back into the shop with me to talk about this because it is so interesting as a comic. And we're all debating whether or not is this his life as he remembers living it, or is he desperately in vain trying to fix the life that he lived that turned out badly? I mean, was the Reverse Flash from the future already tinkering in his timeline, and the Reverse Flash as he is now remembers his life as the finalized form after all the tinkering with no brother and the top position and the dead parents and the failed romance? Or does he remember the earliest version of it where the brother got in the way and he didn't manage to do any of those things and he's tried and failed to set his life right? I mean, is this the tragic story of somebody who is trying to set their life right? Or is this the really twisted story of somebody who is just merely molding their life into the form that he knows it has to take?
That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it happened. I think that he knew it had to happen, and I think he got loose. He knew that now I have to go back and make it happen, because if it doesn't happen, then what? You have like a crazy paradox or some time thing that'll
Yeah, and I mean, I think it can be even simpler than that. I mean, in the sense that it's those things that Doctor Who does this occasionally, where you'll see an episode where he's doing things that obviously his future self has gone back and put in place for himself. And I get the sense that that's sort of what's happened here, that he's always ended up that way, but he had to go back to adjust those things to be the way that they were. But there's something else here. And again, there's the mention again of like the reverse speed force and how it possibly differs, but we don't really have a full exploration yet or concept of how it differs from the speed force itself. I mean, all we know is that that's where his powers are coming from.
We get the Flash facts, or the Reverse Flash facts, back up in this, which just says, basically, it's got more powers than we're aware of, and that perhaps even more than Thawne is aware of. And we'll see how it goes. He can't destroy Barry at birth, because without Barry, the Speed Force will never exist, and without the Speed Force, the Reverse Speed Force won't exist.
Yeah, that those two offset each other.
But he will do everything else he can to Barry's life to destroy it, short of actually killing.
That's awesome, because we know he can. He can go back and he can make it so he was never born. But that's the one thing he can't do. But anything else he does, he can't do you can't stop him.
Yeah. It prompts it to be even more twisted, because this is a twisted comic. Like,
I think it's safe to say that this might be my favorite issue of the New Flash.
Yeah, and I agree, but at the same time, I don't want that to diminish the softer first 6 issues that we have.
Oh yeah, they were great too. I mean, there hasn't really been a bad issue of Flash.
No.
I'm talking very highly because it's been a great series. This has probably been my favorite thing to come out. I mean, it is my favorite thing to come out of Blackest Night, honestly. I mean, what
totally.
else?
It's the only really good thing to come out of Blackest Night. I mean, we've had a new Green Arrow series and a Birds of Prey series that failed to access new readers, as far as I can make out. And what else did we get? Any other new series?
Not really. I don't think.
So this is where it's at. So, I mean, obviously, speed-based puns are rather unavoidable when we talk about the delays this thing has had, and all of these books they've talked about doing, companion books like Speed Force or a new Kid Flash book, it just completely failed to materialize thus far. But we're on the road to Flashpoint now, which looks to be DC's big event for next year. It looks like it's going to be more than just some kind of Flash event at this point. It looks like it's going to be DC's big crossover event for next year. And frankly, if these last 2 issues have been any indication, yes, please.
Yeah, you notice that this is not carrying the Brightest Day tag.
Yeah, it's not either, is it?
Mm-mm. I just noticed that, but
But
yeah.
Have they dropped it?
Yeah, they just dropped that off books at this point, or what?
I don't know.
The last issue have it?
I mean, the Green Lantern issue from the same week still has it. I mean, it's smaller, but.
Yeah, well.
So.
Did you know last issue is Captain Boomerang, so it would kind of make sense that it had it, but it would also kind of make sense for this issue to have it too. But
I mean, this is one of those comics. I wouldn't say that it has like a big reveal. I mean, we're not, it's, which has been the standard, but it's really, you really
It's
get.
just recapping the history of a character that, frankly, many modern readers will have never had any exposure to. In much the same way as they would have very little exposure to Barry, except as some kind of sanctified figure of the past.
Yeah, because
I'm not
Reverse
sure
Flash.
when Professor Zoom died. So it's got to be sometime before 1985.
My understanding is he died right before the events of Infinite Crisis.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Or
Crisis on Infinite
Yeah,
Earths,
Crisis
yeah.
on Infinite Earths, correct. So
I believe Barry killed him and then retired to the future, which was
Yeah.
shortly before Crisis on Infinite Earths. So yeah, that's over 25, nearly 30 years ago.
yeah, long time. But
So
the
this
real,
is definitely a story that needs to be told.
but I think
It's
this
such
is
a wonderful twist on the story.
And the thing that I like about this issue is this is one of those issues that you can read a couple of times. It's the pleasure in it is really in the reading and the structure and the design of the story itself. It's not one of those that has the big reveal at the end, but on the other hand, it's just really interesting to read and sort of dissect and parse out. Which is rare, but I love it. So
It is
Great.
it is possibly the best just single standalone issue of the year, possibly. I always think I can sometimes it's hard to parse out issues when it comes to big story arcs, but as a simple start, middle, and end contained in one comic, which remains part of the bigger thing. I mean, the only other comic that I can think that's really been doing that has been Hickman's Fantastic Four, and even then, only really in the Four Cities story arc. But I gotta say, I think just as a single issue, that could be the best single issue of the year, just as a single issue story.
yeah. Yeah.
So I guess it's safe to say that Jeff Johns, he's not out of juice yet.
No.
That's
I mean,
the thing. Really, it's,
yeah. I mean,
and you would allow him to be. If Jeff Johns turned in a couple of shitty comics and being promoted to chief creative officer, you'd be like, well, fair enough, Jeff. You're working hard the last
I mean,
while.
he already had one successful run on Flash. Now he's got another one.
you wouldn't blame him for phoning a couple in,
Well, I'll tell you a few Duff ones, Jeff, if you want to go and have a Slurpee and some Frankenberry or whatever it is you like to eat according to your Twitter. But no, he just keeps throwing the quality out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
maybe those
awesome.
people at Spike TV actually know what they're talking about.
They might.
So,
Couple of years, the Scream Awards will be
I'm
the
telling
Academy.
you, they might be on to something. People will look back and like, wow, Scream Awards really progressive. They really had that Jeff Johns guy pegged. I think he's got a bright future. So, all right. Well, hey, we had a show that is gonna be broadcasted. And,
Is it though? Everything's okay, right?
so.
I have double.
Everybody's still alive out there in
I-
the chat. Type something to let us know you can hear us.
They could hear us the whole time. I've got double redundancy. This episode is going up. It is going
Sweet.
to happen.
Hey,
So, but
Happy
hey,
New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Merry Christmas too. We didn't do on that either.
Nope, didn't do Christmas, didn't do New Year. So, but we're back. We're in action. We've got big stuff coming up. We'll have our 1 year episode coming up.
We're nearly one.
So that I may try and actually get some people on, actually do some better planning and get some people to come back and join us for that 1 year And
man, I really hope we can get Jeff Johns for the 1 year episode like we did last week.
Yes,
Man,
I know. We got to see if we can get him back. You know, it was really. So, a couple of things to mention. One, Brian and I are now doing a weight loss podcast. It is called Get the Skinny. You can go to the website, which is gettheskinny.org, which is actually just really a subset of the tfradio.net. But it is there, and we're tracking our weight. We're talking about good weight loss science. It's a lot of fun. I've actually had a great time because I've been talking to like my coworkers about it and kind of getting them interested in trying to be a little bit healthier and stuff. So check that out. We should have a new episode coming out shortly, or we're going to do one shortly. Anyway, so we got that. Two, do want to mention again, we are now affiliated with Comic News International. So like when we actually do an episode like today, they're posting it up there for us. So again, you can always go to Comic News International. That's comicnewsi.com. And get the latest news, see what issues are coming out. Really good resource, so definitely check them out. And if you link off of that as well, there's all kinds of other entertainment news. It's all part of ENI, which, you know, T-formers and everything is all part of that. So again, we want to thank those guys and thank them for supporting us, supporting what we're trying to do here. And we want to thank you as well. We really appreciate you joining us in 2010, making 2010 a great start for the show, and
bearing with us.
Yes, bearing with us through all the adversity of the last few weeks of technical difficulties and other things and shuffling of people and all of that fun stuff. But we got all that worked out, and I'm really excited about where we're at and where we're going and what we're going to be doing. And again, we really appreciate all of you. So please tell your friends about us. You know, we'd love to have them listen. Make sure you talk us up at your shop. You know, because we want more people to enjoy what we talk about on here, and if you please send us feedback, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, once again, thanks everybody for joining us, guys. You have anything else you want to add?
No, I think we got it.
We're good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and please tune in next time when it'll be Fanboy Versus.
This has been Fanboy Versus with your hosts, J.D. Church, Chris McFeely, and Chris Triplett. Visit us at tfradio.net for show notes and to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at tfradio for news and updates. Like the podcast? Leave us feedback on iTunes. Copyright 2010 Radio Free Cybertron.